everybody. You know, again and again in all my reading, I have read that when you're shooting video with a DSLR that has manual control and movie mode, that you take your frame rate you're shooting at and double that to achieve your shutter speed, and you're going to get the best results doing that. So I look back, and so many of my videos with my T1i turned out a little better results, I thought. And it didn't have manual control. It chose all the controls for you. So I decided to put my 7D in program mode, turn it to movie, and press start. And in this lighting condition, which I have a couple of halogen lights above me, they're on a ceiling fan. There are only two that are pointed in my direction. Over in the distance, about 40 feet, there's a very small window that is allowing some light in. And at the same area, I have some overhead fluorescent lights that really just light that area. They don't really bring much light into this area. So very, very poor lighting conditions right here. Now let me tell you what the camera chose. I am shooting in 1080p, 30 frames per second, and the camera actually did choose at this focal distance, at this focal range, which is about 35 millimeters, it did choose 60 for the shutter speed, which is the correct one that they tell you to choose. Now, if I crank that focal range back to 17 or 25, it shows 40 as the shutter speed. So it shows the correct shutter speed, it looks like. It shows the aperture of 2.8, and it shows an ISO of 1250. I just left everything on auto because I look back, and on my T1i that didn't have manual control, it seemed to pump out some very nice results in indoor low light. But, good for YouTube. Not good for, a more professional looking video. If you plan to do a project professionally, or that you want to look its very best in low light, then you should probably figure something else out. But for this test, I wanted to go ahead and see what the camera chose. And right now, I'm going to point the camera in a different direction, but under about the same lighting conditions. I don't have very much room here because I'm doing some renovations. So I'm gonna point it in a very odd direction where it's about the same lighting conditions. And again, let the camera choose the settings, maybe at a different focal distance, so it doesn't choose the correct frame rate they say you should use, and maybe move around a little bit. Maybe walk back and forth, move my hands a little bit, and see just how jumpy and poor the video is, if at all. So let's move on with the test and see exactly what the camera chooses and just how good or bad it really is. Okay, so here is program mode. The camera has chosen an ISO of 200, the aperture of 2.8, and the shutter speed of 40. So I'm shooting in 1080p at 30 frames per second. They say the correct shutter speed should be 60. The camera chose 40. So let's see just exactly how jerky or whatever this is. I'll walk back and forth real quick to get some movement. Okay, so there it is. Let's see when I choose the settings and choose 60 as my shutter speed, see if we can see any difference. Okay, so this time I chose the settings myself with an ISO of 400, an aperture of 3.2 to give me a little bit more depth of field, a little bit more, and then also a shutter speed of 60 since I'm shooting at 1080p, 30 frames per second, doubled that to get 60. You're starting to get the idea here. That's what they say to do to get the best results. So I will go ahead and walk back and forth real quick, give us a little bit of movement, and see how it looks. See if it's any more or any less jerky or anything else than the previous movie. So you tell me, is that better than what the camera chose? Is it noticeably better? Is what the camera chose going to be just fine for posting stuff online? I think it probably will be. But you be the judge. Let's try this arm thing again. These are the camera settings now, remember. f2.8. ISO 400 with a shutter speed of 40. Now does that look any different than this? ISO 400, shutter speed of 60 because I'm shooting at 30 frames per second with an aperture of 2.8. Does this look better? Noticeably better? You be the judge. Talk to you soon, guys. Peace.